did they frown upon certain kinds of work and approve other kinds of work? At this artists
The
union?
artists union did that,
Yes.
yeah.
In what sense? What did they put down, or what did
But
they
they were
like?
against the abstract artist.
They were up against it.
Yeah.
And what did they pass resolutions against it? What did they say?
Well, one time we had an artists union, and some of the members were maybe Communist Party members, but they were so happy to have also a union for artists where you could talk about art also. And so they invited Arthur Gorky to give a lecture. And Gorky was just marvelous for those things, you know. He knew about everything, and he was very ahead of all the other people. And it was such a success in the artists union that on the end, though, some guy stood up, was a real, one of those fellas that he thought it was a smokescreen. We were just listening to a smokescreen, what art could be, you know, because he wanted to be the art for the working men, you know. And so...
He said that Gorky's talk was a smokescreen?
Yeah.
Uh-huh, go ahead.
And all of a sudden, all those members who were all, a lot of party members, they jumped up, you know, and they practically threw the guy out. They said, we want art too, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
they protected, they defended
So they
Gorky.
appreciated Gorky's
They appreciated him so
talk.
much, they never heard a lecture in such order, with slides and things like that, how it began and all that. And they had those famous Russian artists like Tatlin and Gabo and Malevich and all those people too. And so...
They had him where?
on the slides.
Oh, on the slides, yeah.
Check
Yeah.
the slides
I
of the
see.
work.
And so he didn't take any sides one way or the other, but how the modern movement developed from Cézanne, you know, and like
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
somehow.
But you know, I read a speech that Stuart Davis gave
Yeah.
at an artist, not the Artists Union, but the Artists Association. And he actually presented a very clear picture of why a continuing experimentation with abstract aspects of art was socially constructive.
Yes.
Was good for
Yes.
like the things that not were bothering the country but how it had social value. A lot of people in these artists union, or the heads of them, were saying that works which dealt with the problems of the country, which dealt with like the difficulties of the American citizen in relation to, say, a government, were more acceptable and more would make people aware, say, of the difficulties, and therefore would bring about social change. Stuart Davis was making the point that while that may be true in one case, there was something about the notion of abstract painting and the continuing sort of interest in it, which would also be socially constructive and which would lead to sort of revolutionary changes for the citizenry of the country.
Yes, I guess that Stuart Davis had those ideas. I knew him personally very well. And the most modern artists, they were behind the revolution. You know, like I said before, Tatlin and Gabo and Malevich and all the constructivists. You know.
In Russia.
And Tatlin even made it a piece of sculpture, like a tower, like more or less, you know, to the Third International. All the very modern artists of Russia, you know, the constructivists, were all behind the revolution.
Mm-hmm.
They would be more or less.
Yes.
I guess, in Russia. But
They
people-
were until about
maybe
1930.
people, the same kind of people, wouldn't have been necessarily that. How can I say, almost violent feeling about doing away with the old thing, you know, like Tsarist Russia, you know. I don't think that would necessarily be working here so well, you know. And so